Hello everybody and welcome to the United Stand. It's the morning after the night before. Lots to talk about the mess of Manchester United and how, ultimately it is a mess. How do you solve it? Well, we've got Ince, manager Ince. He had a match last night, but we've just been catching up about the game. Got a good draw against Bournemouth last night. And, I think I've got my, there we go. Let me turn that off. I can hear myself from here. Got a good result last night, Ince, but we're here to talk about United, but he's down there in the canteen at Reading. First of all, what are your thoughts on United going out last night and the future of this football club?
Listen, I mean, you think after the first leg, after Madrid, we've done the hardest part. We didn't play well in the first leg. And, we said before, it's just about getting a result, getting something in the first leg to bring back to Old Trafford. And, 1-1 at their place, you think, we're going to go for the next round. But then even I was thinking, even looking at the Tottenham game that we won at Old Trafford, we didn't really play well again. It's not we're not playing well, but we seem to be getting results, and I think that's been the case all this season. We haven't played it anywhere where we're going, we played absolutely sublime and we deserve to win the game, and we're not seeing that. And listen, we scored 3 against Tottenham. Well, Ronaldo scored 3, I should say. But we only had about 4 or 5 shots in the whole game. But this was an opportunity for Man United. We know the league going for the top 4 is going to be tight. We know Arsenal got a couple of games now, and they've got a big one obviously today against Liverpool. But they're going to be favourites for obviously that 4th spot. So getting through to the next, the quarterfinals of the Champions League was imperative, and to blow it away like that, I don't know where it leaves the club. As I said before, I think as a club, this club needs to be in the Champions League. This club next year, whoever the manager will be, needs to have that kind of nugget for these top players to come and play for United, because these players want to play in the Champions League. And if they don't finish 4th this year, that's not going to be the case. And you kind of knew with Simeone. We talk about Pochettino, we talk about Ten Hag. Simeone's just got a knack of just winning games when he needs to win them. And it's not pretty. It's damn right ugly. But he gets men behind the ball. They just kick it. They just protect their goal, and they have moments in the game when they can win the game, and that's exactly what happened. And he does it time and time again.
The thing that frustrates me about it is that, and I don't want to go on individual players, but my big problem this season, I think Maguire's been terrible, and I don't rate McTominay and Fred as defensive midfielders. In fact, I think Fred's played quite well the last 2 games as he's been more attacking. But defensively last night, you look at that goal, and you're right, with Simeone, it's not pretty. I mean, you've got some United fans trying to blame the referee. Okay, we played 180 minutes. If you're talking about a referee after 180 minutes, there's no excuse.
No,
you can't. That's not a United mentality. I saw Bruno coming on the pitch last night moaning at the referee. I'm like, shut up. We could have been 3-0 down in the first half in Spain, and we weren't. So maybe they could moan about that. But the thing that you've hit the nail on the head with Simeone is you know exactly what you're going to get, and if you're going to get that, you're only going to be as strong as your weakest link. And we were just talking before about how Harry Maguire, even on the offside goal, they kept pulling him out because they know he's not quick to come back. And that's a tactical thing. I don't know why he didn't pick Lindelof. That might have helped, or maybe make Varane be the player that does that, but then it leaves you prone to the ball over the top. But if you look at the game, they've scored 2 goals over 180 minutes. That's Simeone's plan. We've scored 1 goal in 2 games. You're going to get knocked out. And both goals are on an £80 million centre-back. And that's why we're out. And that's not to say Maguire's crap or anything like that, but it's, for me, Paul, that suggests, and it's the same with the midfield runners. I thought the goal that they scored last night, we're not picking up the runners from midfield again. We've conceded countless goals from this. Ultimately, is it just the fact that, £80 million for this, £50 million for that? That's just what a negotiator's paid. Ultimately, you're judged on what you've done on the pitch. And really, in those fine margin moments, home and away, we're just not good enough, because you can see the mistakes. We didn't play well yesterday, but we should have took it to extra time, and we've just not been good enough this season, in my opinion. We're miles off.
No, you're absolutely spot on. I mean, listen, we've been saying that since the start of the season. We've been hoping that we'd turn it around, we'd get us a sense that we are actually playing well and, in an informed team. But we've been so inconsistent. And, there's been games this season where we think, yeah, well, we win them, and we don't win them. Then we get the draw at, Madrid, and we think, yeah, right, we're going to come back to Old Trafford. Because whatever happens, you'd fancy Man United, I don't care who you're playing against, to score at Old Trafford. You would fancy them all day long, And that's why everyone was kind of like thinking confident we're going to get the result. Obviously, they underestimated Simeone's team again. But at the end of the day, we've always said about Fred, listen, Fred's played well the last couple of games. He has. And, at the end of the day, as much as people's criticised him over the season, the last 2 games, he's probably been one of the better players.
Yeah.
But as I said, midfield players, it's not just about going forward. It's about, tracking runners, protecting the back four. And I keep mention it time and time again. We haven't got players in that department who can protect the back four. We haven't got players in that department who can go back with runners. The amount of times we've seen in the games when the midfield area at Old Trafford has been completely empty, against Villa, well, they absolutely hammered us in the second half. You can't allow the midfield area to be empty. There has to be 1 or 2 players in there. We haven't got that, and we should have it. Listen, he put Matic in there. But Matic is obviously a great player in his time, but has he got the legs to, to recover? Unfortunately, he's not. We all get old, and he's not in that position. So we haven't got an out-and-out holding midfield player like myself, like a Roy Keane, someone like that. And this is the problem, and teams will look at that. And obviously, by pulling people like Maguire out and getting spaces in behind, you're going to cause. They did their work on United. And, really, as I said, the first leg, we should have been out of the tie. We should have been out of it.
100%.
We
should.
So we're fortunate to take it back to Old Trafford. But now we've taken it back to Old Trafford, let's go and win the game. Let's go and get at them. We never looked like we were really going to score, did we? When you think about it, as I said, the crowd were quiet. The atmosphere wasn't what you normally expect. And sometimes I said to you, the crowd have obviously got this team playing in certain games. Sometimes it's the players you have to get the crowd up. It can't always be the crowd that get the players up. And, European nights at Old Trafford are meant to be magical nights. And it seemed so quiet, you know what I mean? It seemed like quiet. And, that just says the players didn't get the fans up for this game. And it's a big disappointment, as I said. It's a big. Listen, I'm not sitting here now saying we would have gone on to win the Champions League. I'm not saying that.
Nice to be in the draw, though, wouldn't it?
But as I said, being in the quarter-final draw, anything can happen. And that was a great opportunity to do that. And now we're sitting here in March, and the focus has to be, again, can we finish fourth? Can we finish fourth? This is a focus in March. I think it was a focus. No one ever believed we could win the Champions League. We always felt that if we got to the last 16 quarterfinals, you're playing the better teams. And Man United are not playing well enough at this moment of time for us to be confident in them beating the Barcelonas, the Madrids, the Atleticos, the Chelseas, the Liverpools. We're not in that type of form where we think, yeah, we should win that game, or we believe we can win that game. And that's been all through the season. We look at the Tottenham game, and it's a great game, and you think, there we go, we're back, we're scoring goals, we're playing entertainment football. And then next game, you get that. And this is the inconsistency we've had with United all season. So to be knocked out of that at this stage is devastating for the club. It'd be even more devastating if we don't finish fourth. It really, really will. As I said, this club needs to be in the Champions League. This club needs to, attract the players that want to play in the Champions League. Not just the Champions League, but just to bridge the gap closer between Chelsea, Liverpool, Man City. Now, the question is,
do you think we can do that, though? I mean, I've been saying for a while, I think things will get worse. I don't believe Pochettino's the right man. I think we're lumbered with players, and I know we disagree on some of these players, and I'm sure the chat will disagree with them. But for me, people like Harry Maguire, Marcus Rashford, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Scott McTominay, Bruno Fernandes, these are players that over this season have not shown that they're Manchester United players. And Bruno Fernandes is one of my favourite players, but I thought his attitude this season has been appalling. His performances in the last few weeks have been appalling. And, nobody should be above criticism. They shouldn't. But I see all 5 of those players putting a United shirt on next season, and that's half a team. So I don't see next season being any better than this year. And we've still got the same board, and we've still got the same owners, and we've still got, I don't see anything changing, Paul. What do you, and what would you change? What's wrong with this? Because Paul Scholes last night is saying, oh, basically putting it on Rangnick, and I'm like, well, I can't wait to ask Ince about this, because he's been dropped into a club where most of the season's gone, and it's difficult, isn't it? And especially when we've got all these leaks and stuff. How do you change this? Is a new manager going to change that problem, do you think?
I think as a manager, the first thing you have to do, and it's always tough when you come into a club like I have done at Reading, and you're trying to have to change the mentality of players. No, it's not the ability of players, it's the mentality of players, and to do that in a short space of time is tough. I'm finding it tough now. To change, someone's got a mentality, and you're trying to change the way they think and what they do and how they conduct themselves and discipline. All those things as a manager you kind of look at. And I think with Rangnick, I think we said it before, to come into one of the biggest clubs in the world and have players going out and leaking to the press or going on Sky and saying things ain't right, this is not right, that's not right. All this kind of disharmony in the changing rooms, all this fragmentation. It's a tough gig, and people don't understand that. They don't understand that. And it's like anything. When you're winning games, everything's great. Everyone seems to be getting on, and the world's a happy place. But at Man United, when you lose games, you find all the issues that are going on behind the scenes. And I think for Rangnick, it's tough. It's tough. And you can't point the finger at Rangnick. And I hate when people do that. It's the players. These players, as you said, are worth 80, 60, 50, 40 million pounds. It has to be self-motivation. They're not playing for Rangnick. They're playing for the fans. They're playing for the club. They're playing for their teammates. But if there's fragmentation in that club, in that changing room, then are they actually playing for the teammates? You talk about Fernandes. When he first came, he was outstanding. All of a sudden this year, and I'm not sure whether it's because of the arrival of Ronaldo, he's got a sidekick, and all of a sudden we've seen him moaning, we've seen him lying on the floor. We're not seeing the player that he was when he first came, when he took the club by storm. We're not seeing it, and as you said, haranguing the referees all the time. And I don't mind having a go at the referee. I used to do it. Ken used to do it. You watched us play, but we still played while we did it. We still performed while we did it. We moaned, but we played. These lot are just, some of them are just moaning, using it as an excuse because it's going against them. If it's going against you, do something about it. Don't blame the referee. Don't blame someone else. Take responsibility yourself as an individual and as a team to do something about it. And we've seen too much of that this year. Fred, everyone, just 4 or 5 Man United players going around the referee. It's not our fault. It's not our fault. To blame someone else, a blame culture. So ultimately, it's the players. Once they cross that white line, they get paid to do a job. It's simple as that.
Did you have when you were at United from the rebuild to the success to when you left in '95? Was there ever times of a blame culture in that dressing room or within that club, or was it always stamped out? Because you're right, the goal we conceded yesterday, we're blaming the ref, and we can't shut up about it. Even at full time, we're blaming the ref. People, there's no leadership in that team. 45 minutes attacking the Stretford end to keep your season alive. They may as well have not come out for the second half. How does that happen in a Man United shirt? What has to be going wrong for that to happen? With it, you can't get up for 45 minutes attacking the Stretford end. That people like Rashford and Pogba come on, and you feel they've got the hump because they didn't start the game, and they don't do anything. It's like, is that individualism? Is it downing tools? Is it a club culture? Is it a lack of leadership? A lack of respect? How are players doing that?
I think it's a question of each individual's got certain issues, and you start off with Marcus Rashford. This is someone, 2-3 years ago, we were saying, wow, this kid's going to be special. When I saw him score 2 goals at Old Trafford against Liverpool, playing on that left-hand side, cutting in, and I'm thinking, wow, the kid's going to be special. I think somewhere down the line, even in his England place, he kind of lost that to Foden and people coming now, and he's not the first pick was England. And sometimes as a player, that can be destroying, you know what I mean? We saw the fans have a go at him 2 or 3 months ago. for not trying to win the ball in the area. So from a mental point of view, it can affect a player. It can affect a player. You've got Pogba, who's not going to be there next year, you wouldn't presume. He's probably out of contract. Lingard, I know, doesn't play. No, but when you've got 4 or 5 players in that change room who ain't going to be there, and you've got 3 or 4 players who are moaning about someone else, and because players always think they know best, all right? Players think, oh, well, why is he not playing? I'll play him. But they're not managers. They're not coaches. They're players, and the job is to play. And I think there's so many different types of mentality in that change room at the moment that it's affecting the way they play as a team, because they're all not thinking about the same goal. When I was at United and I joined United in 89, 90, we knew our object was to win the Premier League. That's what it was. All right. On the way, we won the FA Cup and the Cup Winners' Cup in Rotterdam. But we know the object was to win that, and we knew that we were piercing it together. There were signs as the years went on that we were getting closer. We should have won it in 91, 92, to be fair. So we knew we were close to it, and we knew we was putting the final pieces of jigsaw to it. So that objective was there from 89 to when we won it in 92, 93, and we never waved away from that. Not to say that everyone got on, but the majority of us did get on, and we had the same common goal, and that was to win the title, and that we never waned from that, and we never let anything get.
He's gone. He's gone at the best bit. He'll be back here. Go
Can
on,
you
you're
hear
back
me?
now. Yeah.
Can't hear you.
You can't hear us.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I can't hear you for some reason, but I'm going to keep talking.
Okay.
Yeah, we never let anything get in the way of that. And as you said, if we felt that anyone for some reason was disrupting what we were trying to do, then they would be pulled and they would be told, and that'd be done within the changing room. It'd be done by the leaders of the team, the character of the teams, and they won't get away with it. It won't happen. Here, I think it's completely different. I'm not sure what the common goal is. I'm not sure what the target is. I'm not sure what the remit is. The remit was obviously to finish 4th in the table. It was never going to be finishing in the top 2 or 3, but to finish 4th was the remit, and that's going to be tough now. And there's too many things going on. There's too many players who don't seem happy, don't enjoy play. I actually look at some of the United players and I think, do they actually enjoy playing for Man United? I look at their faces and it's like sometimes it's like an effort to play for United. It's like it's too much pressure at United, because that's the big difference between Man United and any other football club. The pressure to perform week in and week out is so big, and you have to do it week in and week out and week in and week out. And that's why it's people like Paul Scholes and Roy Keane and Robson and Beckham and Giggs. That's why they were great players. We've got this kind of habit at the moment that someone plays one season and think, oh yeah, well, he's a great player. They're not. Great players are great players who do it year in and year out for Manchester United. And you can sit back in 20 years, 30 years time and you ask Man United fans, who's your great 11? And the thing is, none of the players now will probably be mentioned apart from maybe Cristiano Ronaldo. And that's it. And you have to keep performing. Right. And you talk about Fernandes at the start when he came in, he was fantastic. But he's not reproduced that. And the question you've got to ask yourself is, why has he not reproduced that? What's changed in that changing room for him not to reproduce it? Is it the manager? Is it the players? There's something wrong, isn't there? That we don't know, because he's a very talented footballer. And Pogba again. Why did he not start? I'm thinking Pogba is on his day is a world-class player. We know that. We know that. So why is he not starting in one of his biggest games? I don't get it. I really don't get it.
Can you hear me yet? I think you might have muted me. Have you muted me? Have you pressed your mute button?
And I can't hear you. Something's gone wrong because I can't hear you, Marky.
Come out and go back in again.
Still can't hear what you're saying.
Press your mute button.
So I just keep waffling on.
No. Come out and come back.
You can hear me, but I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Live.
come in and come out. Turn it on and turn it off. You must have muted me.
Shall we click back off and click back on?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
That's right.
First time it's happened all season. I'm not sure.
He's definitely
paid electricity bill.
He's definitely not in the Spurs canteen because I could hear a load of cups going past. So he's definitely not at Spurs, but he's at Reading canteen. We'll see if we can get him back. And then I want to carry on with what he was talking about there because it's absolutely spot on about the mentality. He's definitely muted. He's definitely muted himself. It probably won't work. If it doesn't work, we'll come back. But I think that mentality thing is absolutely spot on. And I do want to ask Paul, hopefully, about the about that mentality. Can you hear me yet?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Good.
Okay, so I was going to ask, good points that you made there, and you were talking about the mentality. I just wanted to ask you, just before we talk about something else, for me, this United team, it reminds me of I took my daughter to Sports Day about 6 years ago, and she won the race, and she was crying because she didn't get a sticker. And I went and spoke to the teacher and she said, it's a non-competitive sports day. So everybody wins. It's all about fairness. I just walked off. I thought, I'm not going to say anything. It's not right. And I feel that that's a bit like what United's come about. I think you've hit the nail on the head about they don't enjoy playing for United. I think it's almost become a job. The benefits of the social media and the praise that they get, but they don't have the right mentality. And I've actually had people getting in contact with me the last few weeks saying, oh, you've been a bit unfair on this player, been a bit unfair on that player. And I'm like, you're a fucking footballer for Manchester United. You're meant to get criticised if you're not good enough. They can't deal with criticism. They're so used to winning team photos at training. The mentality is appalling. And it's like a non-competitive football club. It's just there for pictures and celebrations, and it's like you said, what are they building towards? When you were there in the early 90s, you're building towards that first title for what, 20 something years. What are they building towards? Because they're actually stepping backwards. And the one thing I wanted to ask you is, if I don't think that team's got any leaders, but I think people can be led. Do you think if you dropped yourself or Aquino or a Robson into that dressing room, it would make a difference to the team? Do you think it is? I'm not saying it would make you title winners, but I look at that last 45 minutes last night and I'm absolutely disgusted by the fact that there's just no drive. There's no community. There's no chemistry. There's no desire. Is that something that they need to sort out urgently at their football club? Or do you think that's overrated now?
Hello.
He's walking around. He's not even bloody listening to me. Did you hear what I said?
I keep losing your voice, mate. I don't know what's wrong with your phone. I keep losing you.
Can you hear me now?
I think. Listen, just going back to what you're saying. I think, you talk about chemistry, but there's from day one, there's never been really that chemistry, because the stories have been coming out. You can go back to it, even Mourinho days, when with Pogba and the situation that was coming out in the press and all that stuff. It's been consistent in United throughout the years. Even it was great when Ollie took over, and the first 10 games, I think, was fantastic. Then all of a sudden, the kind of wheels fell off, and then all the stuff started coming out again. So this is not something that's just happened now. This is something that's happened years ago, and whoever comes in is trying to find that magic solution, to get this team where we want. And you look at Liverpool, and there's a harmony about Liverpool, there's a harmony about City. Chelsea to a certain degree, but the top teams, there's a harmony about them, and they've all got a common goal, and I just don't see that at United at the moment. And for the next manager who comes in, as I said, to turn that around, it's going to be a really, really tough job, because, as you said, half the players are going to be there next year. Some won't be. They'll probably bring some more players in. But you're going to
problem remains, though, doesn't it?
Most of the players there from this year, they're going to be there next year. So, as I said to you before, whoever comes in, they've got a tough gig. They've got a tough job. And you think, well, how could it be a tough job coming to Man United? Because it is, because you've got to change the mentality of people. You've got to change the mentality of the club. You've got to change how people think, and how are they prepared to put their life on the line to get closer to Liverpool, to get closer to City, to get closer to Chelsea. Arsenal will be a force next year. If Conte's at Tottenham, he want money to spend. you know, so we got all these teams challenging, and yet we're at the moment where we're kind of stuck in the wilderness. We don't know who's going to be manager next year. We don't know who's going to be there next year. You know, all these questions that are being asked cannot be good for the focus of a team who are trying to finish fourth in the Premier League.
Can you hear me now? Can't hear
And I've
me
lost
again.
you again.
Can you hear me now?
And I've lost you again.
Next manager.
It's definitely your side. It's not my side.
Well, it's not my side because everyone
You
can
hear
bloody
me, but
hear
I
me.
can't hear you, so it's got to be coming from you.
No, it's coming from you. Crap distribution again. You were always shit at that in the 90s. I can say he's gone now. Look, he's off. Typical. If you watched Ince in the 90s, his distribution was always rubbish. Communication, bullshit. Will he come back? Let's wait and see. I want one more question with him, and then I'm going to rant about the bias because I felt that there was some stuff last night that was just ridiculously said by some of our ex-players, and I do want to get at that. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. That's better.
Okay. I've got a question for you.
Okay.
Got a question for you. I want to ask you who should the next manager be, so think on that. But my first question is this. Yeah, I'll give it to you over fucking Ollie, that's for sure.
I'm joking. Last time I did something like that, I got absolutely caned. So
yeah, but you would have done it probably better. You were probably right. I thought you were a prat at the time, I must admit. But I thought, you know, thinking about it, I mean, you know, look at that summary he had. 80 million on Maguire, 50 million on Wan-Bissaka, 15 million on Dan James, 40 million on Donny. I mean, he just pissed 200 million pound up the wall, hasn't he? I mean, we can all do that. We could all do that. I'll tell you what, I bet I'd get one player better than him out of that 200 million. I fancy myself.
Well, I think it was more disappointing the fact that the money they spent on him, that you never really give him a chance to play. You know, Dan James started the season off, played well, he's got a couple of good goals playing off the left.
Dan James off the right at the moment would be a bloody godsend because we haven't got a winger.
But Dan James, for me, is found his home. You know, Dan James, no disrespect to the kid, you know, was never a Man Utd player to go throw straight into the first team. It might have been one where you've given lots of games and take him out, but you know, when you're thinking about where you want to go with this club, I'm not sure whether Dan James was the right buy.
It was worth the risk, wasn't it? But
I think, you know, Wan-Bissaka, as I said, is a wonderful defender. But the modern day game is about fullbacks getting forward and putting balls in the box. You look at Arnold, you look at Robertson, you know, people like that. It's about, you know, the modern day fullback is getting forward and getting crosses. We signed Cristiano Ronaldo to get balls into the box. We don't put balls into the box. We come back out and we play again. We go back round. It's too pedestrian at times, and you know. So you think about that. He's in and out of the team. Donny's now at Everton. Not even hardly getting.
Do you think Harry Maguire? Because you've been quite protective of him, as has many of the. I personally think I don't get it, but I feel that, you know, I've heard Rio do it. You've done it. Scholes, Neville, Keane. I don't know what it is, but there seems to be a bit of a. I don't know what the word is. People always look out for ex-England players or whatever, and I think Maguire does get protected. I do think he gets protected. We've had this chat before, but he's not a Man United centre back, is he? He's not a Liverpool centre back. Is it? Have we just spent too much money on players that ultimately aren't the level we need to be? Because Harry Maguire's good in a back five for England, but he ain't good in a high line back four, as we saw last night.
No, listen. I think what we got to understand is that because obviously Man United situation, because the desire to try and close the gap, because of what people would do, Man United would pay over the odds for players.
Yeah,
they'd pay over the odds for players. So because people know that Man United are desperate to close the gap on the top three. So when you say is Harry Maguire an 80 million centre half, people say, well, whatever club are prepared to pay for him. You know, that's what it is. Unfortunately, that's what it is. Would you say Wan-Bissaka was £40 million? That's a lot of money. It's an inflated price because clubs know that Man United will pay over the odds to get the players in. Now, if you're going to pay over the odds, you've got to make sure you're getting the right players in. You know, and you know, as much as we say Harry Maguire is rubbish because he's £80 million, that's not his fault. It's £80 million.
No, 100%.
You know, so but that doesn't mean that he's the right man for Manchester United. It doesn't mean Wan-Bissaka is. You know, but the recruitment I mentioned before, the recruitment's been diabolical all for the last 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. You can go through some of the players and the money that they've spent. You know, is absolutely ridiculous on players that you think.
Gone again. Poor old Reading. They're in a relegation fight, and now they've got crap Wi-Fi as well. I can't hear you now. I can't hear him now. He's muted himself. I can see he's actually muted himself. Their mic isn't connected. It's telling me on the screen. Can't hear you. You're talking to yourself. It's not being on BT for Paul, this.
Can you hear, got me?
Yeah, I can hear you now, yeah. Yeah.
Carry on again. So it's what clubs want to pay for these players. And we've always said it. I've said it. Gary Neville said it. The recruitment it hasn't been great. You know, Liverpool go and buy Diaz from and you think, wow, what a player he is. I've seen this lad play for the last 2 years in Portugal, and yet I'm thinking, why are Liverpool getting him, and why Man United not getting him? Why are we not seeing him before Liverpool? And then he goes into Liverpool side, and it looks amazing. He looks a well beater, and that's the problem. Some of these players that are going to other teams who probably don't even know about, why are these teams getting them and Man United not?
Well, this is it. Some people want to put it on the players. Some people want to put it on managers. Some people want to put it on coaches. Some people want to put it on the board. Some people want to put it on Glazers. Shit rolls downhill. And ultimately, he'll be back. Don't worry. Ultimately, I'll lean over here. Ultimately, unfortunately, I'm about to do a video on That's Football, which I'm going to hit live as soon as this finishes. And the problem is that football club is infected from top to bottom. You've got mates on the board, you've got mates in the coaching setup, you've got mates in recruitment, and ultimately the players are a reflection of the coaches, and the coaches are a reflection of the board, who are a reflection of the recruitment team, a reflection of the owners. It runs all the way through the club. There's not a good area of United that I'm confident about, and you've played there, Paul. There's lots of different areas. There's fitness, recruitment, there's strategy, there's corporate, there's playing staff, and I would say at United, most of it's broken. One thing I will let you go in a minute, because I know you're on carrier pigeon internet or something. But the reality is,
I think it's you, not me.
It's 100% not me.
Because you can hear me, but I can't hear you. So it's got
because you keep it in mute.
I don't. I've not touched anything.
I see you touching it with your fingers, like my little lad. Stop touching it. I did want to ask you this question though, and it's one we've spoken about before. I said it in November, and I think we both were discussing it about the interim coach. Mm-hmm. Now, I've had this from firsthand from a couple of people over the last couple of months that, well, I think forget that. It's very obvious anyway. Let's not pretend it's coming from information. United, when they appointed an interim, we spoke about this back in November. When they appointed an interim, they basically said, we just want someone to get us to the end of the season. I remember you saying it. They want someone to get to the end of the season so they can have a long look at the manager in the summer. And basically, when you say we just want you to get to the end of the season, that means you're not buying anyone in January. We'll only let players go that we think are right to go. And ultimately, if you can get us top four, you've done a good job.
Yeah.
So ultimately, this board wrote the season off in November. Now, Chelsea sacked Lampard in January. They didn't get an interim. They got Tuchel in full time and they won the Champions League. At this level, you can't write half a season off. You know, Reading have just got you in to try and keep them up. You know, clubs, Gerrard at Villa, clubs don't write seasons off. Even in bloody March, they don't write seasons off. They'll bring a manager in to try and make things happen. If you're a player, and we can read that, and you're a United player, and in November, you know your board is basically saying, well, it's just about if we can get top four now, surely you're mentally again, you're just like, well, we'll get top four. You know, there's no demand from the club above, is there? It's sort of like we're coasting through this season, and we've paid the price now. Well,
I think it's different, and I think when you talk about Rangnick and you think, well, listen, he came in was it November? Did you say?
Yeah. December, Rangnick was, but yeah, Ollie was sat in November. Yeah.
What he's fortunate, and it's a completely different situation to me because I've come in and in the last 3 weeks. Okay, what Rangnick's come in to do is obviously get fourth. There's a remit to get fourth. Okay, there's a remit to try and go as far as you can in the Champions League. But the thing is, for the ball to say that in December, it can't be right because he's still got a transfer window in front of him.
Yeah,
he's still got a January window where he can go, right, I can bring 1 or 2 players in because that's what I'll be saying. If I was going into Manchester United in December and I was sitting there with Ed Wood, I'd say, right, if I'm coming into the end of the season, who can I bring in? How many players can I bring in?
Yeah.
Because I want to change it.
It's what all managers want to do, isn't it? You'd love to do it at Reading.
Yeah, I'd love to do it. I come into Reading in 3 weeks ago. Oh, I haven't got a transfer window. I've got what I've got. You know, he didn't have what he's got. What he's got. But he had the opportunity to add to that, and they never added to it. You know, so that just shows the ambition. You know, of where the club, what the club were thinking, and where they see their club at this moment of time. Now, is that going to change? Well, I can't see it changing next year because, as we said, half these players are still going to be there. You know, are we going to have to spend another £500 million to bring another 4 or 5 million players in, which are going to be inflated prices, because people know where Man United are and how desperate they are to bridge the gap. And all we keep doing is spending money. I think we spent about 1.4 billion since 2011.
Yeah,
right.
I'm surprised.
That's a lot of money. It's a lot of money, and we've got no further than, you know, trying to hope for fourth every time the season starts. Something has to change. The Glazers ain't going to sell the club. Let's get that right. All right, it's not going to happen. You know, they don't need to sell the club. They won't sell the club. They're making enough money out of the club they're not football people. We get that. We know that from day one. You know, it's all about the commercial side for them. It's not about the football side for them. So it's not about the fans. It's just about what they can take out of the club. We know that. But somewhere down the line, someone's got to come in, as you said, who's going to say, right, this is how we're going to do it. We do it this way. This needs to change. That needs to change. And if it doesn't change, then I'm not coming. But right on the other side, but flip of the coin, as you said, is it going to be a manager who's just going to agree with what the owners want, agree with what the new CEO wants, agree with what the football director wants, and just play it? Just be thankful that I'm in a job at Man United and just do what everybody else says. Someone's got to be in there and go hardcore. And that's why, you know, you talk about someone like Conte. I know Gary Neville saying, "Oh, Conte won't be right for Manchester United." He'd have been perfect for Man United because he knows what it takes to win. Tuchel would have been perfect for Manchester United because he knows what to win. You know, and it's if Pep Guardiola decided to leave City and wanted to come to Manchester United, you'd see actually a change in everything, in mentality.
You've got to be the freedom to give it, haven't you?
Exactly. So the manager that we're looking at are desperate to come to manage Manchester United, whether it's Ten Hag or whether it's Pochettino. It doesn't mean they come in abiding by the rules of what the owners want, or have they got the mentality and the strength to go, listen, if I'm coming to Man United, we do it this way, and that way was going to show us success. Not maybe now, because I said it could be 3 or 4 years down the line before, you know, we start challenging these guys. You know, we thought Pep was going to go next year, but obviously he's not. You know, Klopp's still there, Tuchel. So these teams are growing, and we're stagnating. You know, we're not going anywhere. And the longer we leave it, as I said, it could be another 13 years before we get to a chance of winning the title. And I hate saying that. You know, I do hate saying that because it shouldn't be the case when we're talking about someone like as big as club as Man United, who's got so much money at their disposal. But we've got to find a way where we're bringing the right players. And it's not about just youth. You know, it's not just about youth. It's bringing the right balance of players, the right age group of players. You know, again, with Ollie, we were going through this average age of 25-year-old players. Now somebody got a 37-year-old, and no disrespect to these players, but 33-year-old. You know, what is the project? You know, we can't play panic football, panic buying. Yeah, we can't play that. We've got to play a project where we go, right, for the next 4 years, this is what we're doing. And we've got to have the right manager in place to do that, who's got the balls to stand up and say, listen, whether it's Man United, I don't care. This is how I work. This is how I bring success. And in the past, I've brought success, and I've done it this way. And that's got to filter for the whole club. And if players don't want to, and that's the thing about players, if they don't like what they hear from the manager or they're not playing, they throw the toys at the pram. You know,
well, it's a bully. It's almost a bully boy tactics at United, because I've seen certain players in the last 2 weeks who have come on as subs or not been picked, and they're basically not putting the effort in because obviously they think they should be starting. And there's certain players in there that clearly have got a lot of power, a lot of voice, and seem to get, we've even heard it last week. It's like they're almost like teachers' pets because they get picked regardless of their form. As you said, these players aren't going anywhere. So the new manager, whether whoever it is, you're coming into a place where there's powerful players who've been there longer than you, and if you don't pick them, they're going to down tools, or they're going to. So it's, as you said, we're stuck with these players anyway. Whoever the new manager is, we're stuck with these players.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Jan. And he's back. It's just like when you see Sterling not playing or Gundogan, you know what I mean? You don't see them throw the toys out the pram. When they start to get the next game, they play, and they played to the way they should play. All of a sudden someone doesn't play for United, and you see them on they're sulking and they're not happy, and then there's things that come out because they're not playing. With these big squads, you have a rotation system. All right, you do it at Liverpool with Thiago. Henderson played the other week. They understand they're not going to play games, but they also understand they're going to play games. Yeah. And that's the way of teams being successful. Everyone can't play every week. Have we got enough strength from the bench to do that? I'm not sure we have. I'm really not sure we have. But you look at City's bench, you look at Chelsea's bench, you look at Liverpool's bench. They've got the same quality of players with the same mentality to understand that.
We haven't got the strength on the bench. Sorry to interrupt. We haven't got the strength on the bench. If you've got good players like Marcus Rashford, Paul Pogba, Jesse Lingard, but when they come on the bench, they look like they've got the ump because they weren't starting the game. You may as well have bloody Mark Noble on the bench. He's not as good as Pogba or Rashford, but he probably comes on with the right mentality. I looked at the bench last night and I was like, we've got Pogba, Cavani and Rashford on there. At least we've got some good options. All three of them come on and it's almost like they've got the ump because they didn't start. So they're not putting the effort in anyway. And that's the mentality. That's what he means. Yeah. Sterling coming off the bench for City, he's coming at it in a different way, isn't he?
Yeah, of course he is. And the thing is, who gives them that mentality? Can you give a player that mentality? Can you change a player's mind? And you talk about sports psychologists. That's so much, prevalent now in today's football, in today's sport, whether it's golf. Is it? It's because it's about the player's mind. It's about, as I mentioned, a common goal. Whether you're playing or not playing. If Man Utd win the title, we all win the title. Whether I played 10 games, whether I played 5 games, or whether I played 30 games, I'm still part of that history. And I think you see that with City, you see that with Liverpool. You see it with these teams. Why is their mentality different to some of the Man United players? Why? And that's a major question. And can you change that mentality? And the only way you can change it is if the manager goes, right, you're doing it this way. If you don't do it this way, you're at the club. And I get people in with the mentality, who's going to do it the way that I want, that's going to bring this club success. And the board have to back him, and the CEO has to back him, and the football director has to back him. At the moment, I feel like every manager's treading on eggshells. Can't upset him. You've got to be careful with him.
Yeah, they don't have control, do they?
Football players have got so many different personalities, and and it's how you treat these players. And no player's got a divine right. And the issue you have here with Manchester United, because they're so inconsistent, is that everybody thinks they've got a divine right to be playing. Because if Man Utd winning 4 or 5 games on the bounce, and I'm sitting on the bench, I can accept that because we're winning games week in and week out. But if Man Utd are winning 1 and then losing 1, and I'm still on the bench, I'm going to feel aggrieved. Hang about. We haven't won for 2 weeks. Why am I still sitting on the bench? So then when I come on the pitch, I'm going to go, right, this is my chance. I'm going to show you why I shouldn't be on the bench. But sometimes the Man Utd players have to go the opposite way and go, oh, well, I should have been playing. And rather than say, well, I'll show you why I should be playing. And that's the mentality that you shouldn't have at a Man United club. It just shouldn't. For these many years, the mentality is a massive thing at United. Conduct yourself and
wrong, isn't it?
And it's not great at the moment, and that's something that needs to change rapidly if we're going to start pushing up to where we belong in the next 3 or 4 years. And it's mad that we're talking 3 or 4 years. We're not even talking about next season. We're talking about 3 or 4 years' time. We hope to be closing the gap.
But there's clubs coming through, isn't there? Newcastle are going to come through. Arsenal are getting better. We're nowhere near Chelsea, Man City, and Liverpool. So you can actually see things getting worse, really.
Yeah, and they will, and this is what the fans are going to have to accept. It's hard to accept because it is Manchester United. And Man Utd's been brought up on winning things. It has, and competing for, for top 1 and 2 places in the league. It's hard for United fans to deal with what they're seeing. But if you could see some hope, along the way, then you could be patient. You go, okay, listen, I can see where we are making progression. We are doing it. We've bought in Ronaldo, we bought in Varane, we bought in Sancho, and we thought, yeah, right, that's it now. Definitely going to be competing, definitely going to be in the top 2, top 3. Now we're sitting here in mid-March, thinking, wow, are we actually going to finish in the top 4? But yet we spent all this type of money, Donny van der Beek, and we're probably in a worse situation than we were at the start of the season. So that's how far we got to go. What happens to Donny? Does he come back to United next year? Does he leave? We know Pogba's going to leave. We know Lingard's going to go. You can see it. You can see it. It's a little bit of a mess at the moment, and I'm not sure how they're going to deal with it. The next manager is so important. It really, really is. And the more you look at it, the more you realise how important the next manager is.
100%. And just in relation to that, is the two choices seem to be a Ten Hag or a Pochettino. We think the club will go for Pochettino because Edward wanted him all the time, and he's got Premier League experience, even though he's been sacked. But Ten Hag is a manager that's got a distinct style of play, understands developing a team over a longer period of time, very good with youth development. They've got to get that choice right. And I mean, we probably disagree on this, but for me, I think Ten Hag is the most attractive one because there's no guarantees with this. So you might as well go for somebody that's going to be somebody that can restructure and build a club. And I don't think Pochettino's that man. I think he's a man that's more going to be a bit of a puppet to the Glazers, which is why they'll go for him.
Yeah, listen. I don't know. I don't know what the situation with Pochettino. All I know is that we're just looking at. We mentioned just 2 managers. This is the biggest club, one of the biggest clubs in the world. We should have a list of world-class managers, who we can choose from, and we're just kind of mentioning the same 2 managers. Listen, they might surprise us and come up with something else, but all we've heard for the last 3 or 4 months, Pochettino, Ten Hag, Pochettino, Ten Hag, and it looks like they could look at those 2, but there's other managers out there.
I personally don't think there is a search going on for a manager at all. I think it's a lie.
You don't?
No, I think they've agreed to give this Poch months ago. I think I'll be proved right in the next few weeks. I think this was agreed with Poch a long time ago because that's how this club acts. They pretend to do it. It's like with Ollie, isn't it? We're going to do a big search. We're going to wait till the summer and we're going to get a top manager. And they give Ollie the job in March because he wins a few games as interim. This club's full of nonsense. And I think that I reckon they've already agreed to give this Poch back in November. It's like, we'll get Ranić in till the summer and then the job's yours in the summer when you leave PSG. And I think that's what will happen because the club just make those sort of mistakes all the time.
Yeah, and listen, at the end of the day, it's the club who makes the decisions, and we can't change the way the club thinks. If the owners want to give it to Poch, then I for one, I've always gone for Pochettino. I've said from day one that Pochettino should have been the man to take over at the time, but it's the owners who make the decisions. We can't change what the owners want to do. As much as we can voice an opinion and say, go for him, go for Zidane, go for Allegri, go for all these other top managers, give it to someone else who's like, Graham Potter, what I mean? Just give him a chance, a young, exciting manager. Because we're talking about the next 3 to 4 years that we want to see Man United develop. So why not give it to an up-and-coming manager?
Yeah.
Who can develop his team and play a great style of football that we see at Brighton. I'm not saying Potter's the man, but I'm saying we just can't be kind of blinkered and think it's Ten Hag, Pochettino.
You've got to give it to. The first thing they've got to do for me is they've got to give it to a manager that the fans can be patient with. And I respect that some people want Pochettino, but I also know there's a lot of people that don't. So straight away, he's not going to get even if the board think he's the right man, even if you think he's the right man, Gary thinks he's the right man, even if I thought Poch was the right man, I'd still sit here honestly and say, the minute we get stuffed in September, which we will have a bad result because we're rebuilding. He ain't going to get the patience, and the club needs to be awake to that because you're right. Whoever the next manager is, the fans have got to realise what we've been discussing for a long time is that this is going to take years. So you've got to have a manager in that the fans are willing to give years. And with Pochettino, I don't think the club have realised that there's definitely a weight of feeling in the fan base that we don't want him. So he's going to have a hard job. If you go to If you come to Reading and they've gone, 20% are like he's okay and 80% are like, I don't want to give him a chance. It's a very difficult job then when you know you've got a rebuild.
Yeah, definitely you're right. And listen, fans will always have an opinion, and they'll always voice their opinion. And you try to get the right man as much as you can. I said to you last week that, how do you know you've got the right man? You know you've got the right man when you're lifting up trophies, and you're winning titles and you're closing the gap. So we don't know that. When Klopp first came to Liverpool, people were questioning after a year. Is he the right man? Is he the right man? But you saw progress every year, and Liverpool fans were patient with him, and we see where they are today. This is exactly the same with Manchester United. Whether it's Pochettino, whether it's Ten Hag, we can't keep going in the situation when the fans go, well, I don't want him. It's not about the fans not wanting someone. It's not their call whether they don't want a manager or not. I've got to be totally honest with you, but they'll always have an opinion because they make not fans, and they bleed red, and that's the way it is. But it's down to the owners and the CEOs and the football directors to say, right, this is the best person we can get, and let the fans know. Put it out there. Don't keep it under the blanket. Put it out there and say, listen, we're employing this manager, and it's going to take 3 or 4 years. We've got a project. You have to be patient. There's going to be some bumpy roads ahead. All right.
You know what, Paul? They did this with Ollie.
Yeah, but that's the thing is, doing that with Ollie, who's only managed in Cardiff and Mould, it's two different things. But we're doing it with Pochettino or Ten Hag or whoever it may be, because you can't have a manager in September and then getting, the fans saying, we don't want him, and the atmosphere becomes all like terrible again, and then we sack him, then we pay him off £15 million, and then we bring another manager in. You don't get success by doing that, and we've seen that since Fergie left. You don't get success by keep chopping and changing managers.
No.
You look at Pep and Klopp. That's how you get success. Listen, Chelsea have a model where they bring great managers in for 2 years. They get success and they get rid of them and bring another great manager in. There's different models to each different club. Liverpool like longevity. So does City. Mate, you're not used to. Now we're not. I mean, it's not like we're Chelsea and we're bringing in great managers for 2 years and winning things and Champions Leagues and leagues and then getting rid of them. We're chopping and changing every time things don't go right. And that's what I said at the start. To bring Ollie in, who was someone so inexperienced at one of the biggest clubs in the world, was always going to be a gamble. Was always going to be a risk. And
that's the problem. That the people who made that decision are the same people who are going to make this decision. And I think the fans just don't trust this board to make the right decision. It's not about we've got any power, because we haven't, but it's also about listening to them again, tell us they've picked the right man, and to get behind him. When we've listened to them spend 1.4 billion over the last 9 years, we've listened to them appoint Moyes and fucking Ollie, and unfortunately, it goes back to that same old thing: is that the chances of this being sorted by the people who run this football club are very slim, because they've got very little of CV of knowledge for us to trust them. And I think that will be a problem if they appoint Poch, because I don't think people think it, in the majority, think it's the right choice. And also, the players know how to get rid of a manager.
Yeah, of course they do. Of course they do. But then again, that's when you have to start changing the mentality. That's why you said you'll have half a team there next year, and you add to that. But the fans have got to understand. It's like, who would the fans want? If you ask the majority of Man United fans, it's okay them coming out saying, "Well, we don't want Poch," or "We don't want Ten Hag." Well, tell me who you want then.
I think the majority want Ten Hag.
Based on what?
I think. Well, I was asked this morning. I mean, I've been aware and watching, not avidly, but I've been aware of Ten Hag for probably 3 years, and he reminds me a lot of Jurgen Klopp. And you just mentioned Jurgen Klopp there, not in the way that he plays football, but just in the way that he's universally admired across the European stage by, I think if Man City or Liverpool got rid of Klopp or Pep, Ten Hag would be one of the favourites to get the job. He reminds me of Klopp's pedigree, where it's a risk. It's a risk. He's only been at Dortmund. He's only been at Ajax. But his pedigree is very, very good. He's a manager that Man City would want.
Is this Ajax who just got knocked out of the Champions League?
Yeah, but
now, if that was Pochettino, everyone's going, Pochettino, God, he's just got knocked out of the Champions League. No one's saying anything that Ajax just got knocked out of the Champions League by Benfica at home. No one's saying that.
Yeah, but if you watch the game, he absolutely pummeled them. It was an absolute smash and grab. But you're right. You're absolutely right. He lost the game. But also, he ain't got Messi, Neymar and Mbappe. He hasn't been sacked by Spurs in the Premier League because he's bottled it. You know, I don't think Ten Hag is 100%. Conte was the man I wanted. I'd have gone for him. But I'm not saying Ten Hag's going to be a success. But I think between those two, I would go with Ten Hag because I think you've got to start acting like Liverpool and Man City. And I know that they would not appoint Poch, but they would be looking at Ten Hag. And I think it's like buying a midfielder. I don't mind us going for Declan Rice because I think Chelsea and Man City want him as well. And I think we've got to. That's if you want to catch the best and be the best, you've got to look at what they would do. And Man United should be thinking, if Pep left tomorrow, who's Man City going to get? Because then they're fishing in the same pond we are. If Klopp goes tomorrow, who are they going to get? Because that we can be in that conversation, and they ain't going to get Pochettino. They're going to probably go and get maybe the Sporting Lisbon coach, or they're going to spot someone from Germany. They're going to get Nagelsmann. Or they'll go for Ten Hag. And I think that's what we've got to be like, not going for what this board thinks was good 3 years ago.
No, and I think you've got to think about two things: the style of Ten Hag, the philosophy of Ten Hag. He's on the front foot. You know, he plays attacking football. He plays expansive football. This is the way forward. When you look at the way Liverpool play, the way City play, Chelsea, it's all on the front foot. It's all about taking risks. You know what I mean? Risk to gain rewards. Now, if Ten Hag's sitting there now thinking, I've got this job, and the way I want to play, how many players at Man United would you think will be conducive to the way he wants to play?
Not many.
There you go. So
we're going to have to get a manager in who can use the shit we've got, anyway, aren't we?
I didn't say that word, but that's what I'm saying to you. So it's not just
that's why they'll get Poch. You're right. The Poch would like a Maguire. He would like a Rashford. He would like a McTominay, and he might get the best out of them, and we might be all right. But I don't think we'll ever win the league with them. But that's another reason why I think they'll go with Poch, because he is more, as you say, he's more suitable for that. And look, I love David De Gea, but Ten Hag would probably not like De Gea because he's not a great sweeper keeper. So he'd probably want a new keeper. Well, United are going to go, I ain't getting rid of a goalkeeper that's on 350 grand a week. No one's going to buy him. So
now you see all the problems arising. Now you see what's going on.
Yeah. You know, so we're stuck with what we got.
No, but what I'm saying is to say by bringing Ten Hag in, it's going to have to change the whole dynamics of the way that United play.
Yeah.
What they need. Can you play, the way these other teams playing on the front foot with the players that we've got? Are we going to have to keep the ball? Do we want to take risks? We don't take risks. So Pochettino might be a bit more pragmatic in the way he sets his team up.
Ollie turned us into a counter-attacking team, didn't he? And that's what this team is. They want to defend deep, compact, and hit on the break, which is not what United's all about. It never was when you were there. It's never been that. But that's what we've become over 3 years. That's what we were moulded into. Yeah,
and maybe we need to change that, because if you think you're going to sit there, even against the likes of Villa and Southampton, and counter-attack them when you should be on the front foot, the way the top teams are, that's the model, looking at these top teams. And unfortunately, as we are Man United people, that is the model. That's the way teams are getting success, by playing the way they play. And we have to look at that, as a club, and go, we need to be playing like these. We need to be doing what City are doing. We need to be doing what Liverpool are doing. And we need to bring in the personnel and the right manager who's got that philosophy to do that. And at the start of it, you might be getting beat 3 games on the bounce, but eventually you'll see the signs that we're getting better and better and improving. So has he got the personnel to do that? Maybe not. Will it take 2 years to get his team? Because you said, every manager that comes into Manchester United, they're not his players. They're not his team. They're not the ones that he wants. Okay? So the same with Klopp. You look at what Klopp's team was when he first got there, how it's changed now in the space of 3-4 years. Now he's got his team. Now he's got his balance. Man United managers have never really had their team. So whoever comes in has to have their team. And that could take 2 years before they build his, like Fergie did with us. It took him 2-3 years to get his team, and he pierced it one by one. And this is what needs to happen at Manchester United. They need to get their team. It's going to take 2 years for the manager, or 3 years to get his ideal team to go, right, now we're ready. Now we're ready. And you can't do that overnight, I'm afraid.
Ince, it's been a pleasure.
It's always a pleasure. Sorry about the.
I hope you win at the weekend. I've stopped watching United now. I'm watching Reading. It's more exciting.
I actually watching Brentford at the moment because you haven't mentioned Brentford yet. I was waiting for you to mention Brentford. You haven't said a dicky bit about Brentford.
Ever since I mentioned it, they've won the bloody last two, the arseholes. Not gonna fucking. They're going to stay up now.
It was brilliant. As I said in Jerry Maguire, show me the money, baby. Show me the money.
There's still time. There's still time for United to get top four, and it's still time for Brentford to get relegated. Fucking no hope on either.
Brilliant.
All right, mate. I'll speak to you on the next one. Good luck at the weekend.
Thanks, mate. Speak to you after the weekend. Take care.
All right, pal. Take care.
Hello, mate. Hello.
Massive shout out to Ince. Enjoyed that. Needed that actually after last night. Needed a bit of a chat and a bit of banter. And his mute button not working. But yeah, it's not a nice situation to be a United fan this morning. I'm just about to hit live on a video on That's Football, which is really short, but it's a 5-point reason why we're finished as a football club, and I think it's very succinct. So I'll drop the link in the chat for you in a minute. I'm going to do a video at 2 o'clock. We're 7 o'clock tonight on the United stand because we've got Arsenal versus Liverpool watch along. Which, I mean, are we in a top four race? I don't know, but I think ultimately the club's just in a huge mess, and I think there's a lot of United fans waking up this morning who probably haven't been woken up to what's going on at this club for quite a while. But I just want to leave you with this. I really wanted to say this, and I wish I'd said it at the start of the video, but it's hard when you've got a guest. Paul Ince was the guest, obviously, but this, for me, is what I wanted to say. I saw last night on BT certain ex-players going in on Ranić, and I was appalled. That's not punditry to me. That's just people being paid to have an agenda. And those players are ex-players of United who are legends. And I'm just expressing my opinion here. It's nothing personal. But if you go on somewhere public and you express your opinion, then everyone's got a right to come back at you. Everyone's got a right to come back at me about my opinion. That's absolutely fine. How can Ranić be, criticised last night like he's the problem when these same players have spent 3 years protecting their mate, who's basically put us in this position in the first place? And also, I wouldn't give the job to Ralf Ranić, but if you watched the first, I think Jurgen Klopp came into Liverpool around sort of October, November time. Their first 7 months under Klopp were not great. They weren't great at all. People were taking the piss out of them, going, "Oh, he's rubbish. Look at him. They've lost this game. They've lost that game." So how is it any different with Ranić, who's come in after the time that Klopp came in and has had mixed results? It's the same bloody story. The criticism of Ranić to try and, blame him for what's happened at this football club. This season is a result of Solskjaer's last 3 years, where he's turned us into a park-the-bus football team and recruited park-the-bus players. And our identity is embarrassing. Arsenal have got a better identity than us, and obviously Chelsea, Man City and Liverpool have. We are where we are because of Solskjaer and the board. And the fact that they sold a lie about a cultural reset when basically they were turning us into an expensive Aldi Stoke. That's why we're in trouble. Ranić's come into this club as a modern thinking football manager or person, and he can't get these players to play like Brighton do because they are donkey footballers. They belong in a Stoke team. They're a counter-attacking team. But look at Klopp's first few months at Liverpool. Look at Klopp's first season at Liverpool. And the results will be very up and down. And yet people want to go in on Ranić because our results have been very up and down with players who don't suit how he wants to play. It was a thankless task. He has made mistakes. I don't know why he picked Maguire. People have said to me, we didn't lose last night because of Maguire. We did, because it was 2 games, and the 2 goals we conceded, he was massively part of it. And unfortunately, I'd normally disagree and say you can't blame one player for why we went out. But against Atletico Madrid, fine margins, 1 goal kick you out. Both goals are on him, and we're out because of it. Because Atletico Madrid, it will be about 1 goal, and it was. But the bias that exists around Manchester United will sink Manchester United. And bias is protecting your mate because he's your mate, but then you suddenly want to be a pundit again when it's not your mate who's the manager. And that's the problem. There's too many friendships, there's too many mates. And when I say that certain ex-players are biased towards English players, it's because they've got them on WhatsApp. It's because they're their mates. And unfortunately, in life, people will protect their mates because it's bias. But that's not what Manchester United need at the moment. We don't need bias. We don't need, I want Poch because he's managed in the Premier League, so I know more about him, and he was a nice guy when I did an interview with him on Sky, and I don't know anything about Ten Hag, and he ain't got any hair or some stupid reason like that. This is not the time for bias. If Manchester United want to improve from this lowest point I've known in my lifetime for United, then you've got to call it out. I'm not biased. Bruno Fernandes is one of my favourite players. He was a disgrace last night on the pitch, and his petulance was embarrassing. That's not bias. That's what's best for Manchester United. If somebody said to me there's £80 million on the table from Barcelona for Bruno, I'd probably take it this morning. That's how pissed off I am with that team. I don't do bias. I do what's best for Manchester United. That football club, from media to players to board, is riddled with bias. Mates get jobs. Mates get over-promoted. Mates get protected. Mates get picked. Mates get protected in the media. We have a massive problem with bias and arrogance at Manchester United, and nobody will call it out. And to be fair, the best, most common sense I see is probably from our community and on social media, because the fans, all right, there are those little biased groups, but the majority are not biased. They know what United need, and we need a total reset, and we need to start getting rid of these players. And if you're going to be on the telly as an ex-player or whatever, you need to drop your media bias, because it's so obvious it stinks. You won't talk about it when it's a mate or someone in your WhatsApp group, but if they're not, oh, you suddenly want to be a pundit again. It's bias. And you need to wake up and smell the coffee to it. It's bias. And this is why United are failing. It's one of the reasons. It's one of the 5 reasons. The 5 reasons I'm just about to knock up on my channel. I'm just going to hit live for you now. Let me come back. Oh, shit. I'll probably freeze for a moment as I come back. But thanks, everyone, for watching. Call it out. I think fans are waking up this morning, and they are calling it out. It's not acceptable, and it needs to change. We're in a bad position. We're in a really bad position. It's going to get worse. Thanks, everyone, for watching. I think I'm back at about 2 o'clock with another video. We'll see you then. 7 o'clock tonight, and watch along for Liverpool Arsenal on That's Football. Talking of That's Football, I've just put the link in the video description. I'll put it in the chat as well. I've just put up a video on That's Football, 5 reasons why United have finished. It's only about 6 minutes long. It's quite succinct. Give it a watch. I'll speak to you in a bit.